Hello, my name is Breonna Casey, and today I will be talking about progressivism as a philosophy of education and how it connects to the work of John Dewey and Catherine Beecher. I'll also share how this philosophy shapes my own beliefs as a teacher, how history might have changed if these figures had faced different circumstances, and how progressivism relates to several key teaching standards in contemporary education. Let's get started. According to Siegel et al. 2018, the philosophy of education shapes every part of the learning experience, how teachers teach, how students learn, and what schools value. As I have studied through this course and continue to grow in the field of education, I have learned that learning is not just about memorizing facts or following a textbook. It should help students grow and become more curious, thoughtful, and capable people who understand the why behind their learning. This is what drew me to progressivism, a philosophy that emphasizes learning through experience, collaboration, and creativity, all ideas that connect to the works of John Dewey and Catherine Beecher, which we will further discuss in this video presentation. But first, what is progressivism? Progressivism is a student-centered philosophy grounded in real-world experience. Spark Services 2024 explains that progressivism relies on human experience as the foundation of knowledge, emphasizing hands-on learning, inquiry, collaboration, and critical thinking. These ideas are rooted in pragmatism, especially the work of Charles Sanders Peirce, who claimed that the meaning of ideas comes from its practical effects. Noddings 2016. So learning is not just about knowing something, it's using it in meaningful ways. It emphasizes creativity, real-world application, and sees teachers as guides, not dictators. In progressivism, students are not passive recipients of knowledge, but active participants. Some essential elements of progressivism includes experiential learning, where students learn by doing, experimenting, and interacting with their environment, and solving real-world problems. Student-centered instruction focuses on a student's specific needs, values their interests, and emotional engagement. Collaborative learning encourages students to collaborate with their peers and engage in teamwork. And critical thinking is where students develop critical thinking skills that help students analyze, evaluate, and apply learning in a meaningful way. Spark Services 2024. As a student, I often struggled in school. It wasn't until college, when a professor used a more hands-on teaching approach, that everything finally clicked for me. I realized I was an active learner, not a passive one, which explains why traditional lectures and memorization never worked for me. This realization serves as a daily reminder that every student is different. They have varying needs and learning styles that require different approaches to help students fully understand the material. A quote that comes to mind is one often attributed to Albert Einstein. Quote, "Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid." End quote. I often felt like the fish in the traditional classrooms I grew up in, which is why the focus of progressivism on individual strengths and experiential learning resonates with me. This philosophy matches very well with how I naturally teach in the classroom and how I see students thrive, especially in theater, where learning is always active, creative, and collaborative. I also appreciate how progressivism introduces a form of learning deeply rooted in experience, encouraging teachers to help students connect meaning to real life. Let's talk about John Dewey. Who was he? He was a philosopher widely known as the father of progressive education. Dewey held naturalistic ideas and believed that education must be based on experience. He was a strong advocate of learning by doing, and believed that when we pair hands-on experience with thoughtful reflection, the result is genuine, lasting learning. He believed that students learn best when they are actively engaged, not when they sit quietly and try to passively absorb information. Instead of viewing students as empty buckets waiting to be filled, Dewey saw them as active participants with natural curiosity who learn by interacting with the world around them. As Noddings 2016 explains, students can use their past experiences to guide new learning, so every lesson should connect to something the student already knows and has experienced. Dewey criticized classrooms where students just memorized facts. Instead, he wanted learning to feel alive. He called this growth, not growth toward a final goal, but continuous growth, learning that leads to more learning. He emphasized that teachers should design meaningful educational experiences that connect to students' prior knowledge and interests. In Dewey's words, quote, "There is an intimate and necessary relation between the process of actual experience and education," end quote. Cloak, 2023, paragraph 26. Furthermore, he believed that teachers should not act as strict authorities, but as guides who nurture inquiry, support students' thinking, and help them explore meaningful questions. This aligns directly with today's call for student-centered learning environments. Dewey's ideas shaping schools that promote curiosity, inquiry, collaboration, and problem-solving, all cornerstones of progressive education. Now, let's talk about Catherine Beecher. In a period where there were strict expectations for women, Beecher was a 19th century educator who pushed for women's education and argued that women were not only capable of receiving education, but of teaching it. She viewed teaching as moral, nurturing work, and that women were well suited for this role because they were natural nurturers and shapers of children's moral and intellectual development. Goldstein, 2014. Her work made teaching a respectable profession for women and helped transform education into a nurturing, student-centered experience, ideas at the heart of progressivism. But what's really fascinating is that Beecher promoted hands-on experiential learning 70 years before Dewey did. Goldstein, 2014. Beecher believed education should help develop the whole student, intellectually, morally, and socially. Milson, 2004. She emphasized that education should be grounded in students' real-world experiences to induce practical learning. She also advocated that education should be active, with hands-on activities like field trips and science experiments. Goldstein, 2014. Her early support of practical experiential learning makes her an important historical figure aligned with progressive philosophy. While Dewey may be credited with theorizing progressivism, Beecher planted the seeds that Dewey would later grow and reap the ideas of this philosophy of education. Dewey and Beecher both believed that learning by doing enhances student learning, education should develop the whole student, education deepens students' curiosity and understanding, education should be student-centered learning, teachers should be guides to students, supporting growth, learning should be active, meaningful, and connected to the real world, and moral, social, and intellectual development matter. Dewey contributed the theoretical foundation that defines progressivism today, while Beecher contributed the early groundwork, especially for hands-on learning. Together, they helped shape the foundations of what we now call progressivism. History shapes the philosophies we inherit. If circumstances had been different, both Beecher and Dewey might have had an even greater contribution to the world of education. Dewey lived during a time where traditional teacher-centered instruction dominated. Had Dewey's progressive ideas faced less resistance from traditional educational leaders, his laboratory school model might have become a national blueprint for public schooling. If schools across the country had adopted this model early on, the U.S. education system might be less focused on standardized testing today. Instead, classrooms might use performance-based assessments that emphasize collaboration, inquiry, and real-world problem-solving, all core principles of Dewey's vision. Beecher faced intense gender discrimination and cultural constraints. Despite her advocacy, women remained undervalued in education for decades. Had Beecher faced fewer societal barriers due to gender discrimination, she might have led national teacher training initiatives that elevated experiential learning much earlier in American history. If Beecher had lived in a society that valued women's intellectual ideas, that gave her greater authority and institutional support, her hands-on, whole-student approach could have shifted the country away from passive learning, paving the way for progressive practices long before Dewey formalized them. History limited how far these educational pioneers could go in their own time, but without any of their contributions, education today would likely be more rigid, lecture-based, and completely disconnected from real human experience. As someone who struggled with traditional passive teaching methods growing up, I strongly believe in progressivism. Each student is unique and has their own experiences, interests, and specific needs. A progressivist classroom values student agency and encourages students to think, feel, create, and connect meaningfully with content. Now, as a theater teacher and the occasional teacher assistant, I see daily how students come alive when their learning is active, creative, and collaborative. I believe that students thrive with hands-on, creative, engaging lessons, that we should encourage curiosity and questioning, that we should help students discover the why behind learning and connect lessons to real life, and that critical thinking comes from experience, not memorization. While I appreciate elements from other philosophers, progressivism reflects the kind of teacher and leader I want to be. To make my theater lessons in class more engaging for my students, I would do group projects, improvisation games, who, what, where, when, and why scene analysis, character exploration activities, collaborative set and prop work, and real-world problem solving. All hands-on activities that mirror the principles of progressivism and would help students not only hear the lesson, but understand it too. As education continues to evolve in the 21st century, Dewey and Beecher's ideas remind us that if we really want students to grow, we must prioritize learning that is meaningful, experiential, and connected to real-world problems. Future educational leaders must support creativity, collaboration, and student agency rather than rigid, test-driven instruction. Teachers and administrators should design educational environments that honor students' diverse experiences, encourage curiosity, and promote critical thinking through hands-on learning. As education continues to change, we'll need flexible lessons, supportive environments, and teachers bold enough to try new approaches. Moving forward, educational systems should consider professional development, community partnerships, for example, students taking a field trip to the zoo to learn about animals, and a flexible curriculum that prepares students not just to memorize information, but to apply knowledge thoughtfully in an ever-changing world. The more we lean into these progressive ideas, the more prepared our students will be for the world they're stepping into. Progressivism honors students' unique interests, backgrounds, and learning styles. Dewey believes students should learn through experience, and Beecher saw education as nurturing the whole student. This aligns with creating inclusive environments where every student can engage meaningfully. In regards to how it relates to this course, I believe that Dr. Morrison had a unique understanding of individual differences in diverse cultures and communities to ensure that her students understood the different points of view of our own students, as well as how to build learning environments that will help our students to meet the high standards that we set for each of our lessons. I personally appreciate how this course included videos to help teachers understand our students, especially with Week 3's video of how to avoid microaggressions in the classroom and instead move forward on a multicultural standpoint of being aware of our students and their backgrounds and how to appreciate them in the classroom. To create hands-on, experiential lessons, teachers must deeply understand their content. Progressivism pushes teachers to go beyond memorization and to structure learning experiences that help students find purpose and meaning from the lesson's content. In regards to how it relates to this course, I believe that Dr. Morrison demonstrates a strong understanding of the history and philosophy of education. Each week, she took the time to host live Zoom meetings where she would not only go into great depth explaining this week's assignments, but she would allow students to ask questions both before the session starts and at the end of the sessions for students who may be more shy and willing to ask questions at the end when everyone else has left. In the week she could not host a video, she still provided a useful video recording of herself to help students understand that week's content and made sure to mention that students could still reach her by email for any questions or concerns that they may have. Instead of assigning traditional standardized testing, like answering questions with A, B, C, or D, she gave tests that required students to think critically about the questions and give a short answer based off our assigned readings and our own personal opinions, which allowed us to interact with the lesson and build a stronger understanding of it as well. With these examples, clearer instructions, and engaging assignments, I believe that she was able to help me and other students in our course understand the content and succeed in this class. This standard reflects progressivism perfectly. Students must connect concepts to real-world problems. Both Dewey and Beecher valued practical learning and hands-on application, which builds critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. In regards to how it relates to this course, I believe that Dr. Morrison did an excellent job at connecting ideas and showing different points of views. Each week she would assign discussion boards that required us to think critically about that week's topic, to not only read our chapters, but to be creative in our understanding and work together by making comments to each other's posts, to note what we liked from each person's post, what we agreed upon, and share our own opinions while being open to hearing others' opinions as well. As mentioned before, Dr. Morrison also included videos in her live Zoom meetings that allowed us to learn about real-world situations, which made this class much more interesting and meaningful, being able to not only read about these educational philosophies and ideas, but to see them at play in real classrooms in the videos the professor presented. Progressivism encourages reflection, adaptation, and a moral commitment to students. Beecher advocated for the moral purpose of teaching, while Dewey emphasized reflective inquiry. Teachers must continuously evaluate their impact and improve their practice to meet student needs. In regards to how it relates to this course, I believe that Dr. Morrison does continue to learn and improve her teaching. For this course, we were assigned a reading from Goldstein 2014 and Nonnings 2016 that allows us to read about the history and study of philosophies of education, but our professor also encourages us to seek out new research, different resources to help us grasp a better understanding of our concepts as well as keep up with the updated version of education of today. When students are confused or require more assistance, she offers us her time, slowing down her lectures and giving clearer examples for the betterment of her students' own understanding. With each assignment we turn in, she offers her personal feedback, sharing what she liked about our submission and pointing out what we did well as things that we may need to improve on for our own benefit. Progressivism continues to shape my understanding of teaching and learning. In short, it offers a powerful student-centered approach to education. By examining the works of John Dewey and Catherine Beecher, I see how experiential learning, collaboration, curiosity, and meaningful engagement lie at the heart of education. Both teachers contributed to a philosophy that values students as whole people, capable of growth, inquiry, and creativity. Their ideas remain essential in today's classrooms. Through progressivism, we learn that education is not just about knowing. It is about doing, questioning, reflecting, and becoming thoughtful, capable, and compassionate people. I believe that this philosophy best aligns with who I want to be as a teacher and who I want to be as a leader as well. Someone who creates meaningful, active, and empowering learning experiences for every student. Thank you for watching. My references are on the next few slides, the first one being my academic references and the second one being my pictures references. Thank you.